anything that makes you feel good. And with the cell phone on everyone's hand, it's so easy to get hits of dopamine, and they're not focusing on themselves, and they're not listening to their bodies and how they actually feel. And I remember when I started this journey, I would hear someone be like, listen to your body, and I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
Welcome back to The Success Blueprint, the show where we go beyond the highlight reel and dive into the heart of what it really takes to build a life and business of meaning, impact, and truth. Today's guest is a woman who doesn't just talk about living intentionally, she rebuilt her entire life around it. Kristy Morrison is a heart-led real estate powerhouse, podcast host, and unapologetic truth teller who is on a mission to help people live more intentionally, from the homes that they buy to the relationships that they build. With over 15 years in the home staging and real estate world, she now runs her own independent real estate business in Ottawa, blending strategy with soul. But the story that brought her to here is anything but the picture-perfect story. After 2 decades of being in a relationship with a functioning alcoholic, Kristy began asking the hard questions about self-worth, truth, and what it really means to choose yourself, even when it costs you the life that looks good on paper. She had the big house, the flashy cars, and a villa in Costa Rica, but inside, she was losing herself. So in the middle of this mess, she made the hardest decision of her life: to walk away from all of the comfort and craft a life that she didn't need a vacation from. Her spiritual awakening in 2016 sparked a complete shift, personally and professionally. She sold the company that she started 25 years ago, stopped living in approval, and started listening to her own voice. That voice now powers her new podcast, The Art of Exceptional Relationships, where she dives into the messy, beautiful truth behind connecting, healing, and self-respect. So in this conversation, it's going to be all about courage. It's about calling out quiet dysfunction, and it's about rewriting the script, especially for the women who have everything and it looks right and it still doesn't feel great. So let's dive in. Kristy, welcome. I appreciate you making the time to be on my podcast today.
Now, thank you. It's my pleasure.
That's awesome. Now I want to dive in because you talk a lot about designing the life that supports your energy. And I think that's a really cool aspect, because people talk about designing the life that you want to live, designing the life that you can afford. But before we go into the intention behind what was your compass, I want to know, because there must have been a moment that you knew something had to shift, that you knew something didn't feel right. Can you take us back to that turning point and when it happened for you?
To me, it actually happened in line with my spiritual awakening. And some people listening might think that a spiritual awakening is like a religious moment. It wasn't like a religious thing. It was just more of an awakening to something's off and I need to make an adjustment. And it happened right in the height. I was, I think, 34, 35. And I had everything. Like you mentioned in the intro, I had the perfect house in a busy suburb, white picket fence, the so-called perfect life with the husband, couple Beamers, successful company. And from the outside, everyone's like, man, you guys are like winning this game. You're winning. And behind closed doors, I'm like, am I? Because I am so unhappy. And there was this weird disconnect that I felt, and I was like, I don't understand. I followed everything. I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to do, and it left a giant hole in, I'll say, my heart. And that's where I kind of had to realize, if I've been doing this for the last 35 years and I'm not happy, something needs to change. So I just essentially hit this, what's the saying, you'll never change, or Tony Robbins says, until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, you'll never change. And I think I've probably even heard that in the exact same moment too. And I was like, I'm feeling this, so maybe I should do something about it.
Yeah, like that internal shift.
Yeah. And it's not like I got a memo in my email and be like, hey, time to change. It was all just acknowledging, I don't know what that was, sorry. Acknowledging that I wasn't feeling fulfilled or happy, even though I have everything that I'm supposed to be happy with. Because we're told that, right? We're told to go to school, get good grades, get a job, all this stuff, and then you're going to retire at 65 and live a great life. I also started seeing flags early that a lot of companies aren't offering pensions anymore and blah, blah, blah. And that's why I became an entrepreneur, and I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that took me down this whole other avenue of trying to find the fulfillment through chasing something, and that was not it.
No, I can understand that. So it is interesting because our world is changing drastically, especially I'd say over the last, say, 10 years with the introduction of AI. I mean, here in Canada alone, they're changing the age of retirement. And so, yes, and we are living longer. Yeah, I know. We are living longer. Yeah, absolutely. Like medical advancements have extended our life cycles. But it is quite a different way when you're trying to think about, okay, well, what do I want to do? When I remember when we were little, thinking, okay, well, here's what we can be. We can be, a dentist, a nurse, a doctor, a lawyer, an executive, like all of these not standardized because they're not standardized, but all of these traditional employments that we are guided towards. And nobody talks about entrepreneurialism.
No, it's designed that way, I feel.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. Now, something I wanted to touch back on that I thought was really cool that you mentioned. You said how your shift and your awakening was not like the traditional spiritual one that we always hear about. I think so many people think that you only are granted that type of massive internal shift and change if you go for that spiritual route, which I'm always hesitant because there's a lot of people out there who may not follow any type of spiritual fellowship. And so because of that, it almost more or less discounts them from being able to have those shifts taking place. So I love that you actually mentioned first that it wasn't a spiritual awakening, it was an internal awakening. So many people discount that or don't appreciate that they are going through that as well. So I think it's really cool that you mentioned
exactly. And to me, I think like spirituality it's such a broad topic that if you ask anyone about it, like my dad's an atheist, and so he thinks it's a religion, and I'm like, it's not a religion, it's just a way of being. For me, spirituality, or the lack of spirituality, if it's from the religious angle, is more of honoring yourself and just trying to become the best human that you are, or can be, through personal development and acknowledging where we, I won't say fail because I don't believe in failure, but not excel as easily in certain areas in our lives, and acknowledging, okay, this is a part, maybe it's communication for someone, and they're like, I need to work on my communication. Well, to me, working and focusing on that is the whole point of life. So whether you want to call it spirituality or not spirituality, it's got such a broad topic that I think everyone's a little spiritual.
Yeah. Well, I think everything kind of boils down to belief systems.
Yeah.
Your belief system could be energy based. Your belief system could be that there is all science based, and that there's only factual explanations for what happens when we pass, what happens when we, live, all of that stuff. So it's really fascinating because I do think it all comes down to belief systems. When you think about what religion teaches you, it teaches you a belief system. 10 Commandments, thou shalt not sin.
Yeah, yeah.
Most religions follow some type of belief system that they are employing onto their followership to do better or be better. I mean, yes, listen, there's a broad spectrum of different religions for anyone who's listening and saying that's not true. Yes, there's a broad spectrum. Some religions may promote negative beliefs and all of that stuff, but it comes down to just belief systems. Exactly. And I think that you can become your own belief system in a way, meaning that the way that you function, the way that you want to grow, the way that you want to develop personal development, that can be your belief system too.
100%. Yeah. Like we could give it a title to absolutely anything. Doesn't give it any more or less merit than what it actually is. So that's bang on.
Absolutely. Now I want to jump in because you do mention you had that perfect life and you had a spouse, an over 20-year relationship. You mentioned being functioning alcoholic. So in every dysfunctional dynamic, there's a part that we play, even if we don't want to admit it, even if we don't want to see it. So how did you come to recognize your own patterns in seeing that? Because you said something didn't feel right, you weren't happy, you had everything, but just it wasn't feeling great. So how did you recognize your own patterns, especially around the people pleasing and really tolerating too much from maybe your spouse and other relationships?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think a good chunk of it, I really required the time to age and have different experiences. Because we met, like, I'm 40 and I'm 42. I separated when I was essentially 40-ish. So from 20 until 40, you become like a completely different person through that time period. And it wasn't just one day. It was a culmination throughout the entire relationship where I would justify, I didn't even think that his drinking was alcoholism until I start reflecting on it now, being like, actually having something every single day and you can't go without it, even though you go to work, it's a problem. And then I would justify things like, oh, well, he doesn't beat me, so it's not that bad.
Yeah. Or,
he's really stressed out, and just because he called me a name, we all get there. But it really took some focusing on myself, I'll say, focusing on what aligns, and I'm going to use alignment a lot when I talk because that's the only way I kind of can articulate how I kind of guided myself out of where I was. It was a feeling of, okay, this is a relationship. I've been in it for 20 years. My part in it is a huge amount of giving someone the benefit of the doubt longer than I should have, hoping for change, not honoring or setting proper boundaries. So, I would be like, don't call me that. And then he would go through a spell where he's angry and then call me all these names. And there was zero repercussion from my side because I didn't know how to uphold a boundary. It would be like, oh, okay, he's in a bad mood. And then I would just brush it off, or I would just distance myself until that mood was over. And then I would reintroduce, hey, blah, 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 whatever this. Or he would come out of his mood and he would feel better and make me dinner because, oh, I feel bad that I called you a name. I'm going to make you dinner. And I was like, oh, well, this is nice. So in it doesn't feel so toxic. Like, you don't realize it. You're like, it essentially you normalize it in your own mind, right?
Yeah, I can understand that.
And the longer it went on, I just got to a point, and again, I got sick and tired of the same loop. I was like, how many chances do I have to give one person where I'm articulating I don't like it, this doesn't work, and then he's like, yeah, I want to make changes, promising me every single time, and then upholding the promise for maybe a week, I think at the most 3 weeks, and then it goes back into the, no, I got this under control.
Yeah.
And so I never truly stuck to my guns on anything I've ever said through the 20 years of the relationship. I always held on to hope. I always held on to, maybe next time will be different. And looking back now, I can see how much it affected me, and I lost myself. I lost who I was. Like, he was such a homebody. I became a homebody. I never went out. I'm like, hey, you want to go to the farmer's market? No. Okay, we'll just stay home. I never went out on my own because I wanted to go with someone. I wanted a partner in life. Yeah. If I wanted to go on my own, I might as well freaking be alone. But I think that was the biggest portion of it is it was just a culmination of slowly losing myself until one day when I was like, you know what? I think I was watching, what's that Five Guys show, the Fab Five.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I was watching that, and then they're like, Karama one day was like, oh, you need to like take care of yourself because you're no good to anyone if you don't take care of yourself. And then I look at myself in the mirror and I was like, I don't know, 40 pounds heavier. Whenever I left the house, I never really did anything. I didn't put any makeup on, and I just probably go out in my pajamas, and essentially I looked like I gave up on life. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna shift that one thing and see how it happens. And then I started, dressing nicer and going out more, and doing things for myself. I was like, do I want to do this? And honoring those moments where like, yes, I do want to do it. I would do it. Even if he didn't want to be involved, but I would go ahead and do it. And that just compounded, be like, hey, this feels good. So I was like, maybe I should start following this feeling. And from there, it just transpired. I started setting better boundaries.
Well, okay, so that's really interesting. So I wanted to note about boundaries. So from the NLP world, when you implement a boundary or you set a boundary, it's like a given rule that boundary will be tested a minimum of 3 times by whoever, like whether it's a universal boundary that you're putting in place with yourself where you're not going to do something or you're not going to let people do something to you, or if it's a specific individual you are setting a boundary with. Minimum of 3 times, up to 5 times. If after that 5th time, they have not respected the boundary, they're probably not going to respect the boundary.
Exactly.
That's kind of like the rule. And so I think what we oftentimes do is we're afraid of implementing or upholding a boundary because it's the power of we. We ultimately want to be a part of somebody. We want a partnership. We want to be a part of something togetherness. And so if we hold a boundary and we know that there's a chance that they're not going to respect that boundary, we don't want to be rejected. Yeah. We don't want them to walk away from us or say, oh, I'm sorry, like in business, in friendships, in relationships. Exactly. You don't want to be abandoned. So that's oftentimes where people will keep pushing down the boundary for themselves because they don't want the negative repercussion of upholding that boundary.
Exactly.
But what's really interesting is when you are continually doing that, it affects your confidence. So I've had so many clients come to me from the professional standpoint, helping them with business coaching, where it ultimately turns into, well, why don't you have confidence in this area? And then we wind it down and we find out, oh, they have a total issue with boundaries, and it's actually a personal issue with boundaries. But every time you allow a boundary to be pushed or squashed or not respected, your own personal confidence goes down a little bit because you're kind of disappointed in yourself for not holding it up. And you're kind of disappointed in them for not respecting it. And now you are starting to believe that, well, maybe you don't deserve to have your boundaries respected.
Exactly. Your worthiness gets shot.
Yeah. So it's a cycle, and it's really interesting because whether it's professional or whether it's personal, it is something that many people struggle deeply with. And they don't even know. It might be like they're struggling in silence because they don't even know that that's what the issue is. So for anyone who's listening who might be struggling a little bit, maybe ask what kind of boundaries you're setting and if they are being pushed.
And the answer is yes, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Across the board for absolutely everyone. I would say it's pretty rare for someone to, in this current state and world, as a collective, most people are having problems with their boundaries and upholding them for sure.
Now I want to talk a little bit about like the traditional rules that we as a society tend to follow, because you followed those rules. You got good grades, you had a steady career, you built a business, you were an entrepreneur because you recognized the opportunity there. But at some point, that vision and that version of you and what success really started to kind of feel, well, what it was that you were living was starting to feel like that prison. So when did you realize that you had built that prison and it wasn't actually yours? Because your staging company was very successful, but yet you let it go.
Yeah.
So what made you release something that was so good in order to create that space for something that was more aligned?
Well, I know now because I've done so much work, I became really good at releasing things, and I didn't understand the importance of being able to release. So in the height of my staging business, we were number 1 in Ottawa, number 2 in Canada.
Wow.
Like
That's incredibly impressive.
it was amazing. And I was speaking on stage in Las Vegas to other home stagers, training, and I built something really freaking cool. But again, it came up with the same alignment. I remember I woke up and I had this can't be it. Like, this can't be where I'm working 24/7, 365. If I go on vacation, I'm still working because I had staff. There's no true detach. Like, I literally created a prison, a slave environment, whatever you want to call it. Like, it was not serving me. I was serving the company. And it was draining. And I remember waking up one day where I would get a phone call and someone wanted an appointment, and my first instinct was to tell them to go F off. I was like, okay.
Not a good way to maintain clients.
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully I didn't. But it was so energetically charged within me. I was just like, whoa, okay, this isn't right. Something is wrong here. So I started evaluating the type of life that I wanted. I kind of started deconstructing. I was like, okay, if this is what I've created and this is where I'm sitting and I'm not happy, even though we've won awards and we're absolutely killing it in the business, what is it? Is it me? Is it the company? Can I pivot? What is this? And essentially it just came out to deconstructing the type of lifestyle I wanted. And I think that was when I read like the 4-Hour Work Week. And that changed my perspective on a type of lifestyle where I didn't have to work literally 365 days a year, 24/7, because I had not only staff, so they would message me late at night. As a home stager, I worked with a lot of realtors, and the realtors I worked with, the 20% that did 90% of the work. So we did so much volume that I would be getting messages all the time. And the reason why a lot of my clients liked me is because I was fast responding.
Yeah.
And at the creation of that company, I was like, this is amazing. Everyone's calling me, and boom, boom, boom. And
I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Ego kind of comes like creeping in. But like, this is amazing.
Love Ron Burgundy.
Exactly. So I didn't realize what I was creating at the moment, but then there came a point where I just hit this brick wall and I was like, I can't do this anymore. There has to be something more to life. There has to be more than working 24/7, 365, and then what am I going to do? Freaking die? Like, I can't do this. This is not sustainable. And so it took some soul searching. I started meditating at that point. I started coming home to myself and asking questions and really deconstructing from the core, meaning, okay, what do I like about this business? What do I not like about this business? And kind of separating them, and then evaluating, can I keep this company going in the metrics of what I want in my life? And the answer was no. For a life that I wanted. And my husband at the time was just like, I told him I wanted to sell my company. And he's like, what? Why? You're successful, you have regular work, you have regular income, and then what are you gonna do? Get a job? And I was just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but every fiber in my being is telling me I have to do this. And he was like, oh, well, you're never gonna sell it, no one's gonna do this, blah blah blah. He's like, you could try. And I was like, no, I have a feeling it'll work out.
You're like, aha, sucker, I was right.
Yeah, so it was funny because I sold the company. And I don't know, I didn't realize it at the time, but like I mentioned, that was the starting point of me being able to start living a life of releasing, not being attached to something. I did also hear at one point, I don't even know when, it was like, never be afraid to let the good go to go for the great. And I was like, glad I
Oh,
know
that's
it's gonna happen.
good.
Yeah. So I
Never
was
be
like,
afraid to let the good go to go for the great.
yeah.
I like that one.
And even though my company was apparently great, I was like, what's even greater? Like, maybe I'll
What
have.
else is out there?
Yeah. And so, yeah, I sold it. And then I think a good chunk when I sold it, I actually unraveled. I completely hit a wall. I was depressed because my entire identity was wrapped up in that company. If I did not have that company, who was I? Who was Kristy? I'm no longer the stager. I'm no longer the #1 Ottawa stager. I'm no longer #2 in Canada. I'm none of that. Like, I've achieved it, but that's not, like, I was so intertwined with it. I thought that that's who I was.
Yeah.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I remember for like 6 to 8 months, maybe a year, my recollection and my ex's recollection are two separate things. I was on the couch. I couldn't move. I was so depressed and drained. I was physically numb. I was mentally numb. He'd be like, what do you want for dinner? And I'd be like, there was nothing. It was insane. And that really solidified at the end of me coming out of that. I really solidified that what I did was correct, letting the company go, because I had hit that wall so hard, I didn't even know. I was just treading water. And then once I had this reprieve, I was just like, wow, I can't believe I did this to myself.
Yeah, your body had to winterize. Your body, your mind, your spirit, if you will, probably had to winterize. Because like we go through seasons, right? And when I think that you think of like the summer as like, you know, the fun, the exciting, the spring is prepping for the summer, the fall is prepping for the winter. You were just like high impact the entire time, prepping for everything. Winter, summer, fall, spring, winter, summer, spring, fall. Yes, never stopping. So your body was like, time to winterize. Because that's a really good lead into one of my questions that I want to ask you, because you talk about how life is not meant to be escaped. It sounds like you kind of had to escape the life that you had before, but it's not meant to be escaped. It's meant to be lived fully.
Yes.
So what does it actually mean to build your life that you don't need a vacation from? Because mindset shifts are rarely neat and tidy. Just like you said, you had to shift your mind from that's who I am to who I truly am. And it wasn't neat and tidy. You were depressed. You were hardly functioning. So also, what was the internal rewiring that helped you stop living for others and start creating the life that you truly felt was for you?
Yeah. Where do I start? I would say the biggest thing that allowed me to identify not like wanting a life that I didn't need a vacation from. So essentially, I worked 24/7, 365, and then I went on a vacation and I'm still working 24/7, 365. Just because I'm on a beach in Mexico with my cell phone to my face doesn't mean that's a vacation. I'm essentially working from another location.
Yeah.
I didn't actually have a full disconnect. Yeah. Exactly. I didn't have a full disconnect. And that was a huge portion of what forced me into burnout. And that was a metric that I internalized when I was on vacation. I was like, this is not sustainable. So trying to design a life, the 4-hour work week, like I mentioned, was a huge influence in that.
Okay, cool.
Where I was like, okay, do I want a 4-hour work week? Yeah, I'm sure all of us do. But for me, I love working and I love having and building relationships with people. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'm not going to go for the full just 4-hour work week, but I want more balance in my life. I want time for myself. I want to be able to disconnect. I don't want to be tethered to my phone 24/7. And my guiding point was acknowledgement of what I've created and how I got there. And on the same hand, identifying exactly what I would want, following my own intuition, gut instincts, whatever you want to call it. I literally would take everything and evaluate it before I did it. So I would say, okay, it actually took me a long time to even become a realtor.
Really?
Because through my staging business, I didn't want to do it for various reasons. Like, no one's going to hire me if I could do both, right?
Yeah.
So I left that off. And then I really didn't want to become a realtor because I didn't want to be running around with my head chopped off, essentially, like a chicken. 24/7 working again, 365 because they're always tied to their phone. Never having a true vacation because you're always on your phone. Working on holidays, evenings, weekends, you get rid of it. And those of you listening, there's probably some realtors like, yeah, that's me. Yeah. That's not me. Do I haul my behind for my clients? 100%. They get 110% of my dedication. However, real estate's cyclical and I use those cycles to my advantage. So I am able to disconnect. I am able to take those times and actually rest. Some, they, want to go balls to the wall still. I'm like, it's not sustainable. You can't be really good for your clients if you're pouring from an empty cup, right? So it's really important to use those cycles that happen within our industry naturally and honoring every portion of building that life. I was like, okay, so even though from the metric and an outside perspective, I could be a realtor with my head chopped off, running around, having absolutely no life, and I'd be back into square one. Or I can be intentional with who I want in my client base, set expectations and boundaries with them, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll say, look, guys, I will work for you 24/7. If we have an offer on the table, I will not go to sleep. However, if we do not have an offer on the table, I'm not going to respond after 8 p.m. because whatever the question is, I can handle the next day. And this is a time for my family. You would actually not even be surprised. Like most people are like, yeah, I totally get it.
And that's one of the things that a lot of people, no matter what industry they're in, they fail to do is set the expectations. I've coached countless real estate agents. And one of the first things that I'm always saying is when you're going into a meeting, the first meeting that you are meeting them at, set your expectations with them. Mm-hmm. Tell them how you're going to perform, how you're going to treat them, and then let them respond to that. And if they respond in a positive way, great, you're meant to work together. If they don't, then that client is not your client anyways. Your real job in the industry is to collect no's to get to the good yeses regardless. So
that's actually an excellent point because some people have brought up to me, they're like, aren't you afraid of losing clients? And I'm like, nope. My sanity is worth more than a paycheck. So I've even fired people before. I'm like, you know what? We're not a good fit. So you can find someone else. I'm happy to refer you to someone I think you might align with. But for us right now, our alignment isn't here.
And that's part of the boundaries, right?
100%. And you have to be able to be willing to walk away from that paycheck in order to protect yourself. We're all here on this world, and it's not a selfish thing to take care of yourself. It's actually the most loving thing you can do is set those boundaries and say, you know what, it's no longer working for me. I think we would be better suited if we go our separate ways. And
it's empowering to be able to fire someone. Yeah. I've only ever fired 2 clients now in total. One was a very gentle firing where it was I just think like right now you're at a point where I don't really think you need my services kind of thing. Like it was very, very gentle, kind of like bringing them to the realization that they weren't really in need of what I was going to be able to provide them. And then the other one was a hard firing. That was a little bit more of a, but when you do fire somebody, when we go back to boundaries and what it actually does, it builds your confidence.
Yes.
Because you are not trying to fit into the mold for somebody else.
You're honoring yourself. You're honoring how things feel. You're honoring these decisions. You're honoring that you respect yourself more than their opinions of you. And I also found out more often than not, one of 2 things will happen. 1, they agree and they're also not happy, so they're happy to go the other way. Or 2, they're like, oh shit, maybe I've kind of been an ass. I'll smarten up, and they start respecting your boundaries. So either way, it's a positive.
The one that I gently fired, that had been a long, slow burn where I had been hinting for a long time. So I think, like, do you want to pause? Like, it was just, anyways, the long end of it is they're doing great. I'm doing great. We still have a good relationship. So.
Nice. Yeah. I love that. And everyone's happy. Like, you honor yourself, which is so important.
So important. Now, I want to talk about, because you walked away from 20 relationship, a 20-year relationship, all the homes, the status, the comfort that came with all of that. What was the hardest part for you? And what did freedom look like on the other side?
I think the hardest part for me was battling my own brain.
Okay.
Because my brain got so used to justifying actions that I was like, well, what if I'm not making the right decision? What if he does smarten up? What if, this next time will be the right time? And I think that's what obviously kept me in there for so long. It's the not choosing myself. And so I remember just one day, I was like, okay, Kristy, you've done this for how many years? You're not going to get different results. Again, Einstein's whole if you want something to change, you got to do something different.
Yeah.
So I was like, I've done the same thing over and over again for 20 years. I've communicated, and I do acknowledge, if he is listening, I don't know, that he doesn't feel like I did communicate. But I did, and I have also come to the realization that just because you say something doesn't mean the other side hears it. They have to be ready to hear something. So I was like, what am I going to do? Am I just going to keep on this merry-go-round, or am I going to choose myself and walk away? Do the hardest thing I've ever had to do, walk away from a home that I absolutely love, that I'll never be able to buy at that price again. Like, it was 36 acres, bungalow,
wow.
8 minutes to a major city. So it's unreal. Like, that doesn't exist. Like, I literally found a diamond in a rough. And I also think the last, 6 years of it, I hung on for so long because I loved that freaking house.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to lose this house. I'm never going to find it again. And again, justification and not picking myself. I sacrificed my sanity. I was always in fight or flight mode. And it's not fight or flight because he was beating me, but it was fight or flight because it was so unpredictable on what I was walking into. Is he going to be drunk? Is he going to be passed out? Is he going to be in a good mood? It just wasn't stable. And after that amount of time, it wears on your nervous system. And I didn't realize that until I actually removed myself. And I pitched it as a trial. Be like, hey, okay, I'm going to move out. I'm going to take some things. And I want to see what it's like to live on my own. And thankfully we did it with a therapist, and the therapist agreed that's a good idea, so he agreed. And the moment I walked through the door, it was like a ton of bricks just fell off my shoulders. He's like, you're safe.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
I'm so sorry you had to feel that. You had to go through all of that to get to this.
It's good and bad all at the same time. Like, I'll say I like to look at the positive, because without that experience, I would never understand what I was going through. And I would never know to follow the feelings that I get within myself, because society as a whole has been trained to numb ourselves, fill ourselves with anything that makes you feel good. And with the cell phone on everyone's hand, it's so easy to get hits of dopamine, and they're not focusing on themselves, and they're not listening to their bodies and how they actually feel. And I remember when I started this journey, I would hear someone be like, listen to your body, and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? I was like,
my body's not telling me good things right now. I'm sore and old.
I'm like, my body's like, hello, are you in there?
I stood up this morning and my body told me to lay back down.
Exactly. So I was like, what does this even mean? But then I started, again, deconstructing and really trying to focus on detaching from things and not participating. Like, I never was a drinker myself because I didn't like the results of it. But yeah, I was addicted actually to my company, my staging business. I was addicted to, and I didn't even know that overworking is actually a trauma response. And it allowed me to numb a lot of the issues that I had in my life, because I was so focused on building the company instead of facing them head on. If I faced them head on, and my partner at the time was willing to face them with me, we probably could survive anything. But there also comes a point where if your partner's not willing to sit at the table with you, you got to make a decision. And it was clear he wasn't willing to sit on the table with me. And I did ask multiple times to not drink, like to go cold turkey, to wean yourself out, whatever it took, go to a facility. I didn't care. But his focus was, well, if I go to a facility, I won't have my job, and I'll just figure it out myself. I'm like, well, you've been doing this for 20 years. You're not figuring it out on your own.
Yeah.
So having to pick myself and remove myself from that situation was the best thing I've ever done. Unfortunately, like I appreciate the time I've had with him. I've learned so much, not only about relationships, him, myself, healing, energy, honoring the feelings that are within me, and just getting really good at releasing things. So I released my staging company, and I didn't know that that was a starting point of releasing things that no longer serve me in every avenue of my life.
Yeah.
It just became the starting point of practicing, I guess.
And I imagine the starting point, because so few people live authentically, like you said, with the phones. We oftentimes convince ourselves that what we like is what we like, and we're doing something because we want to do it. And then we do a little bit of a deeper dive and we realize, oh, that's not actually even remotely what I like to do. And maybe that's part of what's contributing to my unhappiness. So I want to know about the Authentic Shift podcast, because it isn't just a show. You've created a space for real, unfiltered conversations. So what made you start it? And what truths are you most hungry to bring forward through the platform you've created?
Yeah, I mean, the Authentic Shift was a pivot. I started off actually with a podcast called The Conscious Journey, and I think I have 15 episodes in there. And it was just myself talking. And I was actually telling Adam, I was like, I hate talking to myself. I hate it. I'm like, I'm like, I want to talk to someone. That is something I get fueled by, is a conversation. And for me to talk to myself, I don't get fueled by it whatsoever. I'm just like, oh, and I go blank a lot. And I'm just like, no one wants to listen to nothing. So the Authentic Shift is actually a joint podcast that I'm doing with Adam, and we're using we started dating. I think for those of you that are just jumping into the whole conversation, we started hanging out as good friends, and this man is so healed and in his masculine that I'm seeing a whole different side of men, where I went from a toxic side to a healed side, and I'm just like, this is exactly what I wrote on my, I think it was 2023 birthday ritual I do every year, of every quality I'm looking for in a man.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It was wild.
That's sweet.
And then my birthday's December 23rd.
Oh, that's perfect timing too.
Yeah, and
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Here's the man of your dreams.
Yeah, and then I started talking to him 2 days later, but we were just talking as friends, because I was still married at the time, and I knew in my heart that the relationship was over. And I was like, you know what? I'm getting out of a relationship. I don't even want to date. I don't want to date anyone. And so we just were friends. And then when months went by and we were hanging out all the time, and it just turned into something more, because it was everything that I was looking for. And he did have that space to hold for me. And I do the same thing for him on other avenues in his life. So we're both helping each other grow on so many different levels that we didn't think we were going to. I thought I'd be on this train, I don't know, at least 5 years from now. Not right now. Yeah. And so that's where the Authentic Shift was kind of born, is we're like, well, we need to have these conversations out in the open, because there's a lot of people in maybe a dynamic that's not the best. How can they improve it if they're both willing to work on it? And I want to stress that is our relationship is completely based on individual growth and then growth together. So he's continually expanding and growing on his own. I'm continually expanding and growing on my own. And as two individuals that want to grow and expand, we're creating this third entity of us growing together. So what does that look like? And those are the conversations essentially that we have on the Authentic Shift, is everything from, relationships, esoteric stuff, things that make you think, everything.
I love that.
Well, it was unplanned, but completely divine timing, I'd say.
And now you get to live your authentic self too.
Yeah, it's I think the most wildest part is I have learned and embodied, the more you pick yourself, the more amazing things show up for you.
Yeah. I think that that's a very good way to kind of lead into our last question.
Yeah.
So for anyone who has been listening to this episode, let's say they've been listening, but they forget every word we said, but remembers just one truth, what do you hope that they walk away knowing about choosing themselves and living an authentic life with intention?
Yeah. I think that quote I heard early on in my life was the pivotal point of never be afraid to let go of the good to go for the great is the number one thing that has led me on this journey, and it's proven to be true. The more you honor yourself, even if it's choosing to release something you think is good, something great is around the corner. But you can't have both in the same space. Energetically, it's not possible.
Yeah.
You can't, fill yourself up with a giant lasagna meal and then be ready for your next amazing meal. It doesn't happen. There's no space for it. So I would say just comes full circle to authenticity is a byproduct of living exactly for yourself, not for other people. If someone's saying, let's go do this, and you really don't want to, say it. Be like, no, I'm not up for it. There's nothing wrong with saying no. There's nothing wrong. Even if they try and guilt trip you, hold on to your own boundaries and choose yourself over anything, I would say.
I love that. So there you guys have it. Authenticity, boundaries, letting go of the good to go for the great. Kristy, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. I appreciate your time so much. And for our audience who joined in, thank you also so much for listening. I'm going to be linking all of Kristy's information in the bio so you can make sure that you visit her website, check out her social medias, and the Authentic Self podcast. Thank you again so much for joining us, everyone. And I am looking forward to seeing you in our next episode. Everyone have a great day. And Kristy, thank you again as well.
Thank you. Bye now.